Howdy, y'all, and welcome to another episode of the Royals Rundown podcast presented by Royals Review. I am Jacob Milham, coming to you mere hours ahead of Noah Cameron's MLB debut, and I am joined today by the one and only Jeremy Greco. Jeremy, happy Wednesday, and you are celebrating in kind, my friend.
I am.
You are. You took the day off.
Yes.
Just a whole holiday.
Sure. That's what happened for sure.
Oh my goodness. Well, hey, listen. While Jeremy,
very close attention, and I'm 100% on top of things. I am not suffering from lack of sleep the last few days and being ill at all.
Not at all, Jeremy. You are 100% here with us today on the podcast. While Jeremy is, exuding the energy we need here on the Royals Rundown, make sure you go check out royalsreview.com. We are going to talk about Jeremy's upcoming article for the site later on in the show. But if you want to keep tabs on prospects, news, commentary, join the comments section over there at royalsreview.com. We highly suggest it. And also, if you read the rumblings, I don't know why, Jeremy, but I really like to hear about people's thoughts of the songs I put in the bottom. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, for sure. The song of the day. I haven't been in the rumblings as much as I used to be. That used to be something I did because I didn't have a lot of work to do. So I would just be like, let's hang out in the rumblings. I've had way too much work to do. Honestly, the past couple of years, but especially lately. So I have no idea what today's song of the day is. So you're going to have to tell me if you want my opinion.
Listen, I put like obscure alternative country songs in the bottom for the most part. Not really your cup of tea, Jeremy.
It's funny because I used to be a huge country guy. Like country music was all I listened to for a couple of years of my life. And it's still the best genre for me to sing in. And I have been at times a professional singer. So if I really wanted to make myself feel good, I would just sing a country song because that was the stuff that was actually in my range more than musicals or certainly pop, which is all super tenors all the time when it's guys.
Yes. That it is.
The pop I listen to is new metal and emo punk, so the tight skinny jeans give you the high voices.
You know what? It just makes anatomical sense. I will say that, Jeremy. Alrighty, folks, listen, before we get too deep into the episode, I do want to remind you that if you're listening to us, we greatly appreciate your support. But if you want to make sure that you never miss another episode of the Royals Rundown podcast, you got to follow us. You got to subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening to us at. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, wherever you get a podcast. The Royals Rundown is there for you. All right, Jeremy, like I started off with the show, Noah Cameron, the Southpaw, is getting the start today for the Kansas City Royals. We spoke about that a little bit on the previous episode, and we'll talk about the roster moves that happened to make that possible later on in the show. But I just kind of want to, we should tell fans what they should look for with Noah Cameron, what he's done to earn this spot, and just kind of who he is. In today's rumblings, I included a interview from 2024 that Preston Farr did with Cameron. So I think that was well worth a read, but we'll focus a little bit on the numbers right here. Before we get into those numbers, though, Jeremy, I do wonder, what are your expectations for Cameron in his MLB debut and beyond?
So whenever I'm trying to evaluate a prospect, the first place I go is Fangraphs. They've got so much information and summarized so well for prospects, especially for a site that's free, is even more especially. And though I do pay for the membership because I want to support all the good work they do over there. So the first thing I look at is what's his future value according to their prospect. And they've got a 50 as his future value, which is on the 20 to 80 prospect scale. So that's average. He doesn't have an org rank. This is from the 2025 preseason, which is interesting to me. His overall rank is 87, which that's a top 100 prospect per Fangraphs. That's good stuff. The prospects TLDR they give me is lefties with a plus command of a plus changeup to pan out, and that's exactly what Cameron has been for the better part of 3 years. I look at his AAA stats from this year. He picked up pretty much where he left off last year. He's striking out about the same number of hitters. He's walking a few more, giving up a few more home runs, but he's getting a lot more ground balls, and the BABIP has come down. So he's getting there a slightly different way, but he's doing the same thing as he was doing before. He's a fastball, curveball, changeup, cutter guy. The changeup is his go-to pitch. He's got good command. So hopefully what I'm going to see tonight is a guy who doesn't walk a lot and who can handle the righties at least as well as he handles the lefties.
Yeah, I think that's a fair expectation. And while you're looking at Fangraphs right now, I'm looking at Brooks Baseball for some of the more in-depth numbers on his pitching arsenal. And so over Pitcher List, I do kind of a weekly recap on some of the metrics behind pitchers for the week. And Carson Weisenhunt, a prospect in the San Francisco Giants organization, has like a 70 grade changeup, really considered the kind of the best changeup in the minors. But Noah Cameron's is a pretty damn close second. I will say that. He tosses it nearly a quarter of the time, but still registers a crazy 45% whiff rate on that pitch alone. And that's because he has such good control of that four seam, and he doesn't overpower with velocity. He only averages about 90 pitch, but he locates it so well, and that's his workhorse pitch still, that changeup just plays so well off of it. And that's not even going into, his slider is looking a little bit different. I know he doesn't trust it completely yet, but that's a newer weapon for him. And that curveball is another one of my favorites from his arm slot. I hope we see a lot of that today. Overall, I'm not expecting the guy to go out in his first MLB game and register a quality start. Steinbrenner Field we saw it a few times last night. If it wasn't for that wind, some of these balls that would have been easy flyouts in Kauffman Stadium would have been well over the fence. And I haven't looked at the weather for today, so hopefully that's kind of the same thing again for Cameron's debut. But if he goes out there and gives you 5 innings, a 3-run ball, I think you have to consider that a success in his first major league start. And overall, it would continue the theme of the Kansas City Royals starters not harming the team's winning chances overall. So I'm really excited for Cameron's debut, Jeremy. If you can't tell, he's just really produced so well across the past 3 seasons in the minors. Kind of a disregarded prospect, I think, is the way to put it.
Underestimated, I think. Maybe.
Well, I was going to go back to like 2022 is when I was saying he was disregarded at that time.
Nua Cameron was before late last year when he got up to AAA and was still pitching well.
Yeah, exactly. And Jeremy, you spoke about what he did last year, and I kind of had the impression okay, he's gonna do okay in AAA, but he only made 9 starts for Omaha. Maybe he'll regress a little bit, and honestly, he really hasn't. The whip is almost identical. The batting average is notably down. Strikeout rate's about the same. He has just continued what he needs to do. And he's a St. Joseph, Missouri product. So we got to love the local kid making the MLB debut for his local team.
One thing I have to point out, Jacob, is you noted the velocity on his fastball is not elite. He sits around 93. Who else sits around 93? Chris Bubich sits around 93 with his fastball and an elite changeup. I'm not saying Noah Cameron is Chris Bubich because I think Chris Bubich is the only Chris Bubich. Also, Chris Bubich has that rising action, as they call it, the perceived rise. What I would say is less drop would be maybe the more technical term with his fastball that induces a lot of pop-ups. I don't know that Cameron gets that. I haven't seen his pitch shapes. I wouldn't know what I was looking at if I did. So I'm waiting for someone to tell me what his fastball does. Does it have good spin rate? Does it do all this stuff? But or we'll see it in action tonight, and that'll be great. So that's one thing, is you don't have to have elite velocity on your fastball. You know that he has really good command with that fastball. If you put it where you want it, that could be as good or more important than throwing it really hard. Because gotta tell you, you're throwing it 101, but you have no idea where it's going. It's going way outside the strike zone. It's going right down the middle. It's not going to help you. But 93, where you want it every time or almost every time, that's meaningful. One other thing I wanted to
Yes, it
note
is.
as I was continuing to look at his stats is he has 5 starts, only 22.1 innings. That's because the Royals pulled him early from his last start, only 30 pitches in, because they were anticipating that they might need him tonight. So
Yeah.
don't worry too much about how many innings he's thrown. He should be good to go for however many innings he can give him for. I would not expect
Hmm.
him to be asked to go deep into the game unless he's absolutely dominating the Rays, and then you just kind of let the guy go because why not? But otherwise, 5-6
Yeah.
innings, pull him, get to the bullpen.
Yep. That's what I would say. And the bullpen has been just great so far in their own right against the Rays. And that's another unit that's not really hurting the Royals too much right now. I do want to talk about the transactions though
Yeah,
that the Royals had to
we have
make
to, I guess.
to get Cameron. Yeah, it's pretty hard to ignore. So if you were listening to our last episode, my stance was that if the Royals were going to bring up Cameron to start instead of Cole Reagans, then that should be the time that they designate Chris Stratton for assignment. Just go ahead and cut it right there. There wasn't really another albatross hanging out in the bullpen that I could say, hey, this guy's struggling too. Go ahead and option him. Go ahead and designate him for assignment. Stratton is by far the worst performing reliever in the Kansas City Royals bullpen. But that's not what they chose to do. Jeremy, what can you tell them what they chose
So
to
they
do?
demoted Jonathan Bolin, which I think was the move that I think in retrospect it seems obvious. Like it was either Stratton or Bolin. I think is how I
Yeah.
would put it. It was either Stratton or Bolin. I was sure it would be Stratton, but I've been thinking about it since they didn't cut Stratton, and I think I figured out what's going on.
Okay.
What's going on
What's
is
going
they
on?
have no depth. They have with Jonathan Bolin demoted, they currently have 10 major league ready relievers in the organization.
Oh my gosh.
10. And you carry 8. So they've got 2 guys sitting in the
Yeah.
minor league, Sisk and Bolin, and that's it. You don't want to call anybody else up right now. And I could go, I
Fair.
should go look at the numbers. I may go look at the numbers, and that may end up being my article for Monday if I look at the numbers
Okay.
and I see something interesting there. But we'll see. I've got a few ideas. We'll talk about the other things still too. But that was my thought as I thought about this is, boy, if you cut Chris Stratton, you're down to 9 major league ready relievers right now, and 2 people get hurt. You're going to just end up calling somebody up just to fill space, and you don't know what's going to happen. At least with Chris Stratton, I mean, if you know he's going to give up runs, is that better? No, but you've already paid him. Why are you going to start the clock on somebody else that maybe they're better later, or you call them up too early, they're not ready, and you blow their confidence, all kinds of stuff. So I think it's an inventory move of, yes, Chris Stratton is bad, but at least we know we can throw him out there in a white flag situation and he'll eventually get the outs, and we're not ruining anybody else. We're not paying anybody else. So I think that's what happened.
Have they tried Nick Prado? Okay, he was pretty good.
They
He was pretty good on the mound
because he's still in the organization. He's not hitting. Can you pitch, Nick Prado? Just I mean, can you provide any value for the team right now? Because you're not doing it as a hitter.
And I think this was a little bit of a bummer with Bolin, though, because he went out there and he gave you 2 solid innings.
He gave us not just 2 solid innings, 2 perfect innings. He didn't allow a base runner.
Yep, no hits. He only had 1 strikeout, but no hits, no walks. That's all you can ask for. 2 perfect innings,
and he looked good. Like if you were watching him, they were off balance. They did not know what they were doing. He didn't get those 6 outs by a fluke.
It's crazy for me to look at this, but on Baseball Reference, he's already worth 0.1 BWAR, which
I have to say Nick Prado did pitch an inning in Omaha already this year. He's pitched
he did?
an inning. He gave up a hit. He must have gotten a double play because he only faced 3 batters, and he pitched an inning.
Yeah.
So no strikeouts, 1 hit, 1 inning for Nick Prado. So maybe that's the move coming up.
Pitch to contact. I think that's the way to go for Nick. Anywho, so let me just go ahead and break down the entire transaction so that Royals fans understand. So elevated Noah Cameron from Omaha, they reinstated infielder Tyler Tolbert from the bereavement list, and the corresponding moves were demoting Jonathan Bolin and infielder Nick Lofton back to AAA. It's good to see Tolbert back. He's been a great base stealing threat off the bench for manager Matt Quatrero. No qualms there. I hope everything's okay with his family. There was a lot of other. I think that if Royals fans weren't talking about the fact that Chris Stratton was still in the bullpen, they were talking about the fact that Nick Lofton has been doing great things at the plate for Omaha, and he was up here on the major league roster and didn't have a single appearance, didn't see any action for the big league squad. Jeremy, were you kind of surprised to see him go down?
No, that 26th spot the Royals have for years now used for their designated pinch runner, which I think is a valid use of a 26th man roster spot.
It is.
And Nick Lofton is not a designated pinch runner. And what he does offer is positional versatility, but they've already got Kevin Biggio, Michael Garcia, Jonathan India offer positional versatility. Yeah. So they didn't need that. He takes a walk. He doesn't hit the ball hard, which is fine at Omaha. He's a 4A guy. He's organizational depth 4A. Nick Lofton is not an answer to anything. He as soon as his rookie, as soon as they have to tender him in arbitration, he's gone. If not sooner. He's absolutely a guy who could be a 40-man cut. Also, just to throw back to the question of major league ready relievers, I was just pulled up the Omaha roster and was looking at it. They've got a guy, Ryan Brady, who I've never heard of.
Oh yeah, Ryan Brady.
3 games, 5 innings, 5 strikeouts, no runs. He looks good. Andrew Hoffman looks really good. 2.45 ERA, 14.2 innings, 23 strikeouts.
Yeah, he's been insane
Cox
so
looks
far.
Solid down there. 18 strikeouts and 12.2 innings with a 3.55 ERA. Junior Fernandez, 18 strikeouts and 14 innings with a 3.86 ERA. Taylor Clark is down there. Taylor Clark gives you at least what Chris Stratton gives you. So, no, screw that. Organizational depth is not an issue. They've got a bunch of guys they can call up and give a shot to. There is no reason for Chris Stratton to be here. So drop that argument from your vocabulary.
I think if we were in this position about 4 years ago, we would be pondering what dirt Chris Stratton had on Dayton Moore. I think that would be the argument at that time. Jeremy, just for kicks and giggles, I sent you a screenshot of Nick Lofton's numbers in Omaha. For if you see all that red, it does prove your point that he is hardly a power threat at the plate for the Royals. But man, he has just been on a heater for Omaha, 95th percentile and or better in several key statistics. So it's a long season.
88 average exit velocity is very low. All of his exit velocity numbers, his barrel numbers, his hard hit numbers are so low that you're just like, yeah, it's not going to translate.
Probably not, but it is a long season, so I imagine chances are we will see Nick Lofton on the major league roster once again here before too long.
In the Cam Devaney trade for Taylor Clark, who is back in the minor leagues. Royals won that
what
trade.
A trade. What how they did. Hey, you know what? That's another. We talked about the Michael A. Taylor trade, wondering if the Royals won that trade. That's another minor move that might pay off.
2023.
I think those were both early Piccolo moves.
I'm telling you, everyone thought Piccolo was just going to be Dayton Moore. I said, we're stuck with him. Let's give him a chance. He's made some really smart moves. And I know we've argued a little bit about the Michael A. Taylor trade. I love that trade. The fact that, he was useless. If neither of those guys made it to the major leagues, you don't lose that trade. You can't. It's an impossible trade to lose for me because Michael A. Taylor offers you nothing. Getting anything in return for him in your future is all right, cool, let's do it. And to turn around and look at Cruz and Sisk, who have both made it to the major leagues, who both look like they're going to be at least middle relievers long term in the big leagues. That's huge.
It is. It's absolutely massive. All right, so we're going to take a quick break. Coming up on the other side of things, we are going to look at how the Royals fared in their first appearance in Steinbrenner Field, and we're going to be talking about some things up on RoyalsReview.com, so stay tuned. Welcome back to the Royals Rundown podcast presented by Royals Review. Thank you very much for sticking around with us. Make sure you follow or subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening to us at. It greatly supports us, but it also makes sure that you never miss another episode of the Royals Rundown podcast.
Why would you want to miss
All right, Jeremy, so we
content like this?
I mean, well, number one, folks might have wanted to forget the cannibalism bit from last week's episode, I will say.
You're the one that brought it up this time.
All right, and I'm the one who did the review, so it's probably just me.
You've got cannibalism on the brain for sure.
On the brain, really, Jeremy? That's what you're gonna say about cannibalism?
Not getting anywhere near your mouth.
All right, all jokes aside, the Kansas City Royals made their first appearance in Steinbrenner Field, usually the spring training home of the New York Yankees, but now is housing the Tampa Bay Rays for the foreseeable future. They were victorious 3-1, a really low-scoring affair. One of my coworkers is a diehard Rays fan, and we both agreed last night's game was a little boring outside of the beginning and the end.
I enjoyed it.
That middle portion. You did? Really? Why?
It was kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Prototypical kind of what I grew up with baseball of, we're just kind of, well, not even what I grew up with, because by the time I started watching, offense was really starting to take over the league with the steroids and everything.
Yeah.
Royals baseball of just, hey, we're playing some ball. There's some hits. There's some walks. Nobody's striking everybody out. Nobody's hitting 7 home runs. And we're just having a real chill evening.
All right. Hey, you know what? There are worse ways to spend the evening. Yeah. But it was really chill thanks to Kansas City Royals pitching, because we've talked about the batting struggles so much, but their struggles can't outshine how good the pitching has been. Last night marked the latest installment of a stretch where Royal starters have allowed 1 run or fewer. 5 of the last 7 games they've done that, and the Royals are 6-1 in that stretch of games, which is just crazy. Royals relievers, we talked about the bullpen doing their part. 3.3 on the season, tied for 9th best in Major League Baseball. Not elite, but dang, that's a lot better than I thought they would have been. But they've also thrown the 3rd fewest innings. Your starters going deep. You're not relying on the volatility that is a reliever coming out of that bullpen. And Michael Lorenzen, he wasn't overpowering last night, but he was doing his part against a Rays lineup that has a few dudes in it, a few really good batters, and he just made them look really pedestrian. So I was very pleased with that result, Jeremy.
The pitching has been absolutely elite this year, and Michael Lorenzen's been a big part of that. When the Royals signed him, I think a lot of people were kind of, okay, this makes sense, and he's probably going to be the 5th starter. A lot of people wanted him to go to the bullpen. They were like, he's not good enough really to be a starter. And they're like, the rotation's so much worse without Brady Singer in it. A little bit of a downer, but you know, he's been everything I hoped he would be. He's been extremely solid. He's not been a super innings eater. He's not been dominant, but he's never been bad. And I think that's one thing that Royals fans are taking for granted maybe a little bit too much, is that, and they talked about this on the broadcast a little bit last night, Royals starters have only allowed 4 runs or more, I think twice all season, something like that. It's one hand counting numbers. It's just, they don't let it get completely out of hand, no matter how bad the offense has been, which is that's where my article next week is kind of coming from, is what if this is the Royals and that's okay?
Yeah.
What if this is who they are, is just a team that pitches really, really well, but they don't hit. They're not going to hit, maybe. I think that they're going to hit better than this, but maybe they don't, but they pitch really well. And Lorenzen is a huge part of that. That whole rotation, top to bottom, has played a big role in that. You know what, Jeremy? I'm probably off base in saying this, but I'm still going to say it anyways. I looked this offseason at the trend of some major league teams looking at a 6-man rotation. And we spoke to Annie Rogers about it. And at that time, that wasn't a popular idea in the Royals clubhouse. I'm sorry, but if you have Noah Cameron come on, and if he's strong as well, I think the Royals would have to at least consider it, at least think about it, right? I'm shaking my head at you. No, absolutely not. Here's the reason. Who's the 7th starter in the system right now?
Alec Marsh.
He's hurt. He's not pitching.
Kyle Wright.
He's hurt. He's still rehabbing. So here's the thing: you go to a 6-man rotation, everybody gets used to being in a 6-man rotation. Somebody gets hurt. Oh well, I guess we're screwed. So the 5-man rotation, especially with as good as these starters are pitching. Why do you want less Cole Reagans? Why do you want less Chris Bubich? Why do you want less Seth Lugo? I think you want more of those guys, which means 5-man. You know what? Let's drop it to a 4-man rotation. Michael Waka can join the bullpen, okay? No, I mean, don't do that. But
that would be wild.
That's
please don't.
6-man rotation is okay. Our guys need more time in between starts to keep them healthy. We are not really 100% confident in anybody or enough of these guys. We are 100% confident in these guys. Who in this rotation do you want to see less of? Okay,
nobody.
So they have a good problem to have if Noah Cameron comes up and he looks great. That good problem is you've got a 6th starter and nowhere to pitch him. That's a good problem to have. And it's a problem that resolves itself the next time someone gets hurt, or resolves itself depending on how you look at it, the worst case scenario, best case scenario, when Seth Lugo opts out at the end of the year and you need another starter next year.
Yeah. Hey, resident ball knower, Jeremy Greco, everyone. I will say, Jeremy, the one part that had me scared in Tuesday night's game was when Freddie Fermin was going to bunt and he took that pitch off of the end of his finger. How that's being described from the Royals is that his index finger was jammed on a foul bunt attempt, which hurts like the dickens, don't get me wrong, but I was really worried that like he broke a finger on his throwing hand, which would have landed him on the IL for sure. Were you scared as well when you saw that?
I wasn't so much worried about the IL immediately. I was worried about him coming out of the game.
Yeah.
And boy, are we glad he didn't, because he was the offense for a good chunk of that game, which is reminiscent of last year's Royals, that somebody will step up. The team can't hit, but somebody steps up. Now, last year, it was usually 2 or 3 guys were getting hot for a couple weeks at a time, and then Bobby, Vinny, and Salvi would do the rest. Well, Vinny's not hitting. Salvi's started to hit. Bobby's hitting. And unfortunately, we're only getting one other guy at a time. One night it was Drew Waters. Sometimes it's Michael Garcia. Last night it was Freddie Fermin. So the offense is not where we want it to be. But yeah, what I was really concerned about was I thought that was a hit by pitch. It didn't look like it hit the bat to me. It looked like it only hit his fingers on the replay. So I was kind of annoyed that there was no discussion of that. The broadcast team kept saying, oh, it looks like it hit his bat and then the fingers. I'm like, when did it look like it hit the bat, guys? I'm watching this replay over and over again. So that was what I was focused on, was more than the injury stuff. But I probably should have been concerned about the injury stuff, because who is gonna come catch if Freddie Fermin goes on the IL?
That is a great question that unfortunately I don't have an answer to.
The answer is Salvador Perez will just never exit behind the plate,
which I'm sure he would be happy.
They would have to call somebody up or sign somebody to be the backup catcher in case Salvi gets hurt, but I don't know who that is right now. So who's in Omaha? We got to find that out real quick.
Go ahead and look it up. A little bit more on Freddie Fermin last night. So he had an RBI knock in the 9th inning to really seal that victory for the Kansas City Royals. 3-hit night. I think this was his 8th in his major league career. Just a good production from a backup catcher. I know that he's been a little cold to start off the year, but hey, a little plane trip down to Florida seems to be treating him okay. Jeremy, who's the next man up behind the dish?
I'm still trying to get it pulled up.
Oh boy,
there are no qualified hitters in Omaha for the Royals. So they've got Luke Mail, Luca Tresh, Brian O'Keefe. Mail is 34 years old and hitting 316. The others are both under 200 right now. So it'd probably be Mail would be the guy they would call up, I would think. He's the veteran of that group.
That he is. And I think next episode we'll spend a little bit more time talking.
He's the guy that they invited to spring training, right?
Yeah.
He opted out. I guess they convinced him to come back.
I guess so. All right. I do want to talk a little bit next episode about some of these other struggling hitters a little bit more, because I we'll give credit where credit is due. I didn't even think about talking about Michael Massey yet, but last night he looked pretty lost at the plate. The guys over at Royals Weekly already talked about him last week, so I do want to talk about him. Maybe a little bit of Vinny, maybe a little bit of where the hell is Mark Canna, that sort of stuff. But that's for next episode. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that one.
I was gonna say, if you're not putting Michael Massey in the lineup, who are you putting in the lineup? Who are you calling up to replace him? And you gave me the answer, Mark Canna. Mark Canna should be the starting. Your starting outfield should be Canna, Isbel, Waters, and then you could put India at third and Michael Garcia at second. And we did finally get our own. Matthew Lamar was at Kauffman Stadium, talked to JJ Piccolo about this, and apparently the Royals think his range up the middle is better than India's, and they think India's arm strength is fine, which his arm looks fine when he throws over the top. When he does that sidearm nonsense, he gets in trouble. Don't do that.
Yeah.
But so that's why Michael Garcia keeps playing at second instead of India's. They think his range is a little bit better.
Which, eye test so far, still a young season. Eye test so far would back that up, I will say. A little bit of former Royals news that I missed. Congrats to Jorge Soler. He eclipsed the 10-year service mark.
Congratulations for sure.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
That's hard to do.
Would you say it is? It is. Some of the best players will not eclipse that mark. And you know what? There were times when Soler was in Kansas City that I was just like, this kid is not cut out. But he has carved out a very nice career for himself, an all-star berth, home run leader back in 2019, a World Series MVP. So kudos where kudos is due.
I can't believe he was a World Series MVP.
Hey, that Atlanta Braves team was pretty crazy. You should know.
I do know. That team was insane because they added all these outfielders. That was the year the Royals traded him to Atlanta. And they also got Eddie Rosario and a couple other guys to fill in gaps because Ronald Acuna, that was the first time he injured his ACL, or his first ACL that he injured. I think he's injured both of them now.
Yikes.
Well, no, I mean, like, he injured the other one last year.
Okay.
And they were like, well, we gotta fill in for Ronald Acuna, and somehow that combination of guys pulled it off, and Jorge Soler became the World Series MVP, which just absolutely boggles my mind.
As it should. One other thing that I do want our listeners to know about on RoyalsReview.com. So right now we are running a Royals Reacts survey about where Jonathan India should play the most in 2025. Because even though the team kind of has an answer, I think the fan base is a little torn on it, especially with how good that Michael Garcia has been hitting to start off the season. And just how, I don't want to say bad, but some of the struggles that India has had at third base and in the outfield has really kind of brought that debate back to the forefront. I don't need an answer from you right now, Jeremy, but I do just want our listeners to go participate in the survey and get their voices
answer is
heard.
It depends. Earlier, I wanted him in left field because they didn't have any corner outfielders. Well, now the biggest problem appears to be second base, so I want him at third. And later, if Michael Massey starts hitting again, I'll want him in left field again, probably. By the way, we're talking about his struggles. He has struggled. He's got a 77 WRC plus, got a 268 slugging, an 052 ISO. Those are not going to play long term. No. Again, I just believe that the power is not there because of weather conditions more than anything. So I'm still waiting to see. But also over his last 5 games, he has a 158 WRC plus, 333 average, a 476 OBP because the guy still walks like crazy. Unfortunately, only a 400 slug and a 067 ISO. The power's still not there, but I'll tell you what, if he can get on base at a 500 clip, I'm not gonna care.
Yeah, that's you got to find players' value where they present it, not try to force the issue.
I do think because he's never been a power guy, but he's not been Nicky Lopez. He's Nicky Lopez. Okay.
Yes.
He's never been Nicky Lopez before. His lowest full season ISO before this was 130. Almost 3 times what he's currently doing. He does have the lowest strikeout rate and the highest walk rate of his career which I think are both interesting numbers, especially that strikeout rate is drastically lower. Like his career strikeout rate is 20.8%. His current strikeout rate is 15.7. That's three quarters. That's a 25% cut. That's insane. His ground ball rate is also lower. I think he is going to eventually, I'm not predicting like I did for Hunter Renfroe and Vinny Pasquantino that he's going to get hot soon, but I do believe he will get hot at some point. And I still, if you asked me right now, do I think the Jonathan India predictions that I was giving at the beginning of the year, that this guy is going to have a close to 400 OBP, he's going to hit a whole bunch of doubles because of the spaciousness of Kauffman Stadium, that allow the fly balls that weren't home runs in Cincinnati became fly outs, could become doubles and triples in Kansas City. Do I think that that's all still on the table for him? My answer is absolutely 100% yes.
As it should be. All right, Jeremy, we were going to talk about your Monday article a little bit. Yeah. You gave us a preview of what it could be, but explain that a little bit more.
The working theory that I'm coming with, and I'm workshopping with all of you today, so congratulations, you're helping me workshop my article. I hope you're all excited to be part of this process. My working theory is, what if this is who the Royals are? What if they are a bad offense and a good pitching team? There's so much focus on, the hitting is bad. The hitting is bad. They can't win without the hitting. But I think that assumes that the pitching is not elite. Because if your pitching is elite, you can't win without much hitting. Now, I've gone on record. I think the hitting is going to get better. What if the hitting doesn't get better? What if this is who the Royals are? Is that a bad thing? So I wanted to go through the pitchers with you, Jacob. And I'm going to give you their ERAs and ask you, do you think that's who they are? Or do you think they're worse than that? Do you think they're better than that? Okay. As I'm going to work through this real quick with you. Hunter Harvey, 0 ERA. I mean, he's probably not a 0 ERA the whole season, but he can still be really good. He's looked really good when he's pitched. So
yes. What do you say?
I say, yeah, that he's probably that good. The ERA is going to go up some, but I think that's real. I think what we've seen from Hunter Harvey is real. A Steven Cruz, 0 ERA. Is that real? No. Okay, fine. Fair enough. Jonathan Bolin, 0 ERA. Is that real? No. Okay, fair enough. We're starting with the 0 ERA. 0 ERA is almost never real. Evan Sisk, 0 ERA. Is that real? No. Cool. Great. No. Lucas Erceg, 0.79 ERA. Is that real?
No.
Let's set a boundary for real. Is his true ERA, the ERA he'll finish the season with, is it within 1 of that?
Oh man, I'm going to have to say no.
You don't think so? Okay, I think it is. I think this is the real Lucas Erceg.
Okay.
Daniel Lynch the fourth, 1.35 ERA. Is that real?
Yes, I think it's within that 1. I think he could finish with like
John
a 2.3.
Schreiber, 2.13 ERA. Is that real?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't think so.
3.5 is a little outside that 1, but that feels possible to me.
It does.
So this is why we're workshopping here. Is like, okay, maybe we don't define it this way. Maybe we need to expand. We need to gray these boundaries a little bit. Chris Bubich, 2.25 ERA. Is that real?
Yeah, because I think he could hover around that 3 mark.
Yeah,
a lot.
3 is not an unreasonable ERA for a good starter to have. And at what point has Chris Bubich looked bad?
Well, his last start,
that was almost a quality start. Carlos Estevez, 2.75 ERA. Is that real? 2.57, not 2.7. Yeah, that's real.
Yeah.
Seth Lugo, 3.08 ERA. Is that real? That's 100% real. Michael Walker, 3.38 ERA. Is that real? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Michael Lorenzen, 3.48 ERA. Is that real? Might be.
That's within 1, I think.
If he absolutely collapses, 4.5. So again, that's really close to real.
I think that's his floor. Yeah.
Angel Zerpa, 4.35 ERA. Is that real? Does it get worse than that?
I think it gets worse than that. For sure, but I think it's still real. I think it's still within that 1.
I think it's more likely to get better than worse. I do.
Yeah, you think so? He did look good against the Rays last night. I will say, Quatrero was quick to praise him.
He did look good, and
he's
had
outing.
outings this year, which is one of the reasons I've not given up on him at any point. I've just said, please stop bringing him in with runners at second and third to face. It's not working.
Please
let him bounce back a little bit. Cole Reagan's 4.40 ERA. Is that real? The answer is no,
Yeah.
that's not real because it's going to get much better than that.
Sorry, I
His
just had to say
expected
no
ERA
to-
is 2.45.
Oh my
Chris
gosh.
Stratton,
That's a
9
crazy
ERA. Is that
disparity.
real? Unfortunately, yes. Despite his expected
Yes.
ERA is 5.93, but still. Dan Long,
Yeah.
12.86 ERA. Is that real?
Yes.
But do we
that
see
is
him
real.
pitch for the Royals again this year? Yeah,
No,
I don't think so either. So, to summarize this little exercise, is the Royals pitching for real? The answer is yes.
Yeah.
Like, some guys are a little underperforming, some guys are a little overperforming. That's baseball. But mostly they're where we expected them to be. They're not going to crater.
Yeah.
So if this pitching is
That's
for
true.
real, and the hitting, this whole thing assumes that the hitting's for real, but the pitching's for real. They've played through probably already the toughest stretch of baseball they're going to play this year, and they're 500.
Probably so.
So they start playing. They swept the Rockies. They said, our first bad team of the year. It's like, what's the Empire Strikes Back as they're evacuating Hoth. And the first transport comes up, and the Imperial goes, first catch of the day. It's like that. That's it. But they're not about to get blasted with a giant ion cannon. This was it. That was the tough stretch, probably. That was it. So excuse me. And then they completely lost track while I was thinking of Star Wars. They got the Rockies and they said, our first catch of the year. And then they completely obliterated them. The ion cannon malfunctioned. They exploded them. They get the Orioles this weekend. The Orioles have gotten worse as the season has gone along.
They have.
And then
they really
get the
have.
White Sox for 4 games at home. I expect them to obliterate them. And if they hold serve with the Twins, they split the Rays. If they split the rest of the series, that would win the series. Or even if they lose these last 2 games, which they easily could because they're facing 2 very good pitchers.
That they are.
They're going to end up over 500 by the end of next week, facing the Orioles and the White Sox. If they play the way that they have played to this point. If they face these teams as if they faced every other team that they faced. So my long road to a short thought is, if this is who the hitters are, if this is who the Royals are, that's okay. They're still a good team.
Yes,
and I don't think that's who the Royals are. I think they're going to hit. But, and one more thought I had, Jacob.
I certainly hope so.
If the Royals don't hit, man, they're going to have some good trade chips at the deadline. Seth Lugo,
yes, they are.
He's gonna bring in an elite prospect. Michael Lorenzen,
yes,
gonna bring in a very good prospect. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
John Schreiber could probably bring in a really good prospect. Hunter Harvey, if he's healthy, could bring in a really good prospect. Because this pitching, this is so unlike other bad Royals teams, the Royals can bring here something that, even if they're bad, they can have one of the most exciting trade deadlines that we've seen, at least in my lifetime. Of they have so much tradable talent right now that they haven't had. A couple of years ago, we're like, oh, well, they've got to trade Scott Barlow. He sucks, but they got to get whatever they can for him. Well, now you're trading Seth Lugo, Michael Lorenzen, and these other the relievers, and you're getting a huge haul if this team actually sucks. So,
yes,
my point is, and this is probably where we'll end up in the article, is if this is who the Royals are, we're in for an exciting summer one way or the other.
That we are. All right, Jeremy, thank you for that breakdown. And I think the conclusion to that is we'll find out what you write about once Monday comes on RoyalsReview.com.
I'm back
correct?
and forth between all that stuff we just workshopped. It'll go up eventually. But also, after reading through the minor league numbers of the Royals pitchers, I've also got this idea for the 7 pitchers the Royals could use instead of Chris Stratton. So I don't know. I don't know which direction I'm going to go yet, but one of those 2, and then the other one will probably go up the week after that.
Okay. Hey, one factoid that I did want to give you. So you were talking a little bit about the rough stretch that the Royals had to go through, and I'm so glad that that's past us. But right now, the Royals are sitting perfectly at 500. They're 15-15 as we're recording this, which I think is wild to think about because they were 17-13 at this point last year,
so
and we saw how that
2
team
wins
went.
better.
2 wins better.
Just 2.
Yeah, and this team was hitting a whole lot better at that time too. I went and looked at the team numbers. I think right now the entire team has a 77 WRC plus. Yeah.
And that's with
Yeah,
Bobby.
exactly.
So
the
Bobby
entire
is
team,
doing Bobby things, and the rest of the team is like a 23 WRC plus or something.
Dragging Bobby back. But across the entire season last year, even with Bobby, the team had a 96 WRC plus. So they are 20% worse right now than they were last year. But all that to say, I still believe in this team getting to the postseason. I still believe that this team has glaring flaws that they will have to address. But frankly, even the best team, there is no true juggernaut team right now. I get it. The Dodgers have absolutely been shellacking the Marlins lately, but even they have a glaring issue. They're pitching.
They had a huge stretch of losses, and we talk about
that they did.
Our team isn't the Dodgers. That team isn't the Dodgers. Well, the Dodgers aren't the Dodgers right now because half of their rotation, as per usual, is on the injured list. More than half of their rotation.
Exactly. Ooh, yeah,
Shohei Ohtani
a lot of their starters. Nope, still not pitching. He's still batting, but damn, he's pretty good at that too. Mm-hmm. So, all in all, follow things on RoyalsReview.com. Follow the podcast here. We're gonna talk through the season, no matter how it goes. I mean, Jeremy, we've talked about some really bad Royals baseball on this podcast before. We've still made what is it? We've made chicken salad out of chicken shit sometimes. All right, let's go ahead and get to reviews, shall we? I'm not a huge fan either, but I will say I'm sure chicken salad tastes better than chicken shit. All right, reviews. What do you say?
Let's do it. Got to get ready to watch the game later.
I know
a lot of time that we need to spend just absolutely studying Noah Cameron.
And then just watch for my super short outing.
Royals left-handed starter to enter the fray. Let me tell you.
You love your Royals lefties. Let me tell you
lefties
what.
Always have. Glendon Rush was one of my first favorite Royals. He did this.
I haven't heard that name in a while.
Where he went like double swipe with both arms to wipe the sweat off of his face. That when I was pitching Whiffleball to my siblings in the backyard, I absolutely did that because I was like, I'm gonna be like Glendon Rush from the right side.
You know, it is I swear we didn't set this up off recording. It is funny that you bring up Whiffleball though, because that is what my review's about today. So on social media algorithms now, they're pitching you things that you're not following, trying to find, hey, what is this person actually going to sit down and watch so we can get ad revenue from them. And frankly, I do watch a lot of baseball content, but I have been enjoying the Whiffleball content I've been coming across, especially the games from AWA Whiffleball. If you've seen pretty much any Whiffleball that looks like an organized game, it's from AWA. It's a backyard league. It's really fun, really quick action. I wouldn't say like, hey, go fork out $50 or something to go watch Whiffleball or anything like that. But from a social media standpoint, it's a simple broadcast. You don't have to think about it too much. And as much as we love pitching in baseball today, seeing the movement that some of these guys are getting on a Whiffleball is just really satisfying. And I'll say this, I'm not the most athletic guy, and it does give my heart some joy to see like, hey, you don't have to be the top of the athletic food chain to be successful in Whiffleball. So if you're looking for organized Whiffleball out there, go follow AWA on social media and at least check it out, I'd say. Jeremy, over to you.
So first I want to reply to your love of Whiffleball to point you towards there is a Mark Rober YouTube video. He's a former NASA engineer where he competes with professional Whiffleballers using his engineering talents. So he's cheating, but it's a really fun video. He makes really engaging engineering content. So there's kind of a quasi recommendation. And one video I think you would absolutely like is his Whiffleball video. You should check that out. So the review I'm giving this week is I'm going to give you that TV show that I mentioned last time.
Yes.
So I've finished up season 2 of Shrinking a couple weeks ago now, I guess it is. Just other things kept coming up that were more relevant in the moment. And honestly, there's another one that's more relevant today, but if I don't review Shrinking, I'm going to forget I watched it. So Shrinking is a Jason Segel platform from How I Met Your Mother, Marshall from How I Met Your Mother. And I wasn't sure about this. So he plays a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I always forget the difference.
Yeah,
He's a
same here.
therapist of some sort for mental health issues, whose wife died a year before the beginning of the show, and he is still spiraling and doing drugs and hookers and all this other stuff. And so the first season is he kind of starts to come out of his fugue, and with the help of his friends kind of regains control of his life. And then the second season is, you know, what comes after that, because that's a really simple story, but that's not how recovery from grief goes. And one of the things I love about the show is how much time they spend on treating these issues. Like, it's a very funny comedy show, but it also treats all of the mental health issues that are in the show as very serious issues that they want to address in a meaningful and thoughtful way. It also stars Harrison Ford as Jason Segel's mentor, and I was like, I don't know how that's going to work, and he's terrific in it. And I really should know the third psychiatrist's name, but it is a really fun show, a really touching show. It is getting a third season, so I recommend you go check that out if you've got Apple TV. Jessica Williams plays Gabby on the show.
Thank you. I totally forgot her name.
I was gonna be like, man, I'm gonna feel like a real sexist if I don't find that woman's name and I just give you the two guys. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. The cast of characters is great, and they're wild, but also feel real in a good way. So I highly recommend.
I love it. I haven't watched season 2 yet, but yeah, season 1 was pretty
season
good.
2 was up to that.
I am.
Even with the season 1 cliffhanger, where I was like, how do you continue the tone of this show with what you just did? And they did it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll believe it when I see it. One bonus review: Colorado Rockies baseball right now. Those fans, if you know a Rockies fan in your life, go check on them. That team right now is on pace for 23 wins on the season.
White Sox record.
Yes, they are. They are trying. If they're going to be bad, they're going to be the best at being bad in baseball.
You have to be so bad to get your hitting coach fired under a month into the season.
That's impressive, honestly. All right, folks, that is going to do it for today's edition of the Royals Rundown podcast. We do appreciate you joining us. If you want more from us, you can find it at royalsreview.com, or you can follow with us on social media. Our links are down in the podcast description below. But again, follow, subscribe, rate, review the podcast. Please, please, please. It greatly helps us out, and to make sure that you never miss another episode of the Royals Rundown podcast. I am Jacob Milham. They are Jeremy Greco. Thank you so much for joining us today. And until next time, go Royals.
Easy enough. I still haven't decided which article to write.